You can see some little highs and lows in the fender. Just ran a block. Basically, we just go up and down on this. Yeah, you can see the lights and darks. So I'm going to block that some more to check it out. You can see a little black mark there, and then there's one up there. Those are lows. You can barely see them. I've put a straight edge on them just to see what was there, and they come up not so much as lows, but like flat spots. So again, let's hope that the primer, the high build, will take care of that. It should. So I don't know if I showed this before, but we had issues with the trunk lid on this car. Wouldn't line up with the bucket. So this was just tight like so to kind of fit. You can see at the bottom. Yeah, it doesn't line up very well. But to fix this, to have a half decent line, this is the problem we've run into. So I'm going to have to put a few straight edges along the side of the car. There is definitely a dip here. I don't know if I can catch that, but it kind of rounds in. Yeah, there's like a hump down low, but so that's not right. So what I might have to do, he has a GTX of the same year. We might go look at that car. Sorry if I'm too close. I'm parked a little close to the back of the shop. So we're working on the front and sides. Now this side is much worse. But we knew that this car had been hit in the back. So what happened is the car rolled off a trailer. It had no bumper on it at the time. And it hit another car. So what happens when this is all bolted together, this one sits in like this. Now I can literally put my hands in here. I don't know if you can see up underneath. I can't quite get the angle right. But basically the rubber for the trunk lid, the weather seal, it doesn't grip anything. So to pull this out, right, basically we'll find our gap. It's not quite right up there, but you get the idea. By the time we pull this out to where it should be, this happens over here. So when you get these cars, I'm just grabbing the keys. I'm going to open the trunk and show that, see what we found. The other thing I think I showed in the video is the body line on the door was a little bit lower. We've got it a lot closer now, so that's not as bad. I'm going to slightly tweak the door up a little bit at the back. The front's not bad. Keep in mind the fender's not attached. There's a shim holding it up. But we got this body line fairly decent now. It's hard to tell, but across the rocker is pretty bang on. The door down here stuck out. It no longer sticks out as much, but it is still stuck out, if you can see that. So we do have to cut and relieve that. And the one thing I noticed is as the door goes in, this body line, the way the hinges are on these cars, they're kind of funny. If I push it in, it actually comes up. And that's even with the striker loose. So we're going to get that pretty good. We are going to have to cut that out and fix it. Whatever they did there, some kind of... But anyway, these cars are like that. People do crazy stuff and a lot of body work. And, you know, sometimes you'll find a car yourself and... You never know what, you know, a 60-year-old car, what did other people do to it? So what we found... Now he had mentioned this had been hit. And it was all crinkled up. So he says this is all kind of full of filler to look half decent. But if you look over here, below the pot, you can see there's kind of a body line. Now the bumper comes up over, so all you see is basically this groove right here between the bumper and the trunk lid. And you can see how there's like this shape here, and it continues, even follows the arc of the car and continues out. And if you look over here, yeah, so that's wallered in, and they never even pulled it out. I guess it didn't want to come out or wouldn't cooperate. So it almost looks like, I come back to the middle, the shape of this is nice, and then it kind of goes weird and square. So I think what they did, instead of pulling that out, they just pulled the top edge out here and put a bunch of bodywork in. You can see there's some, I wonder if I can pick that up on camera. There it is. Let me slow down. There you go. So below the dirt, never mind the dirt, see that groove? Like that's basically the metal stops down here, and that's just all filled. So this will have to be pulled out. This will have to be pulled up. And if you look here, well, you can see how this dips down. Check it out. So when you lift the bottom out, well, probably about another ½ inch from where it is right now, that's all going to line right up. So we're going to straighten that out so that at least the sides of the buckets match the trunk lid. We're probably going to, there's 4 pins that hold the buckets on. You might have to hone them out a little bigger so there's a little more adjustment. There's some there, but like this has been messed up. What should have happened with this car, the buckets should have been in place. Like I just have one nut halfway on so they can't fall off on the floor and get damaged. But basically, he should have fixed all this, mocked all this up with a good trunk lid. Like you have to have something to go by. Like when I did the tail pan on the 68 Camaro or Firebird, the same thing. I had to go look at another car because it had been smashed in the back corner. So I went and looked at another car and got all the measurements. Turned out both corners had been hit. On the Camaro, the one had been kind of banged up. And then on the far side over there, it was smashed. So you can go look at pictures or videos of that. But anyway, so I had to go buy a half-decent trunk lid and the tail pan. But there was a point where I wasn't sure how to make it as close to... Now, I know a lot of guys say, well, if it looks good, weld it in. And that's probably okay. But in the case of the guy that owned that car, he's got about 13 of them. So I just went and looked at all his cars and basically took a shape gauge and pushed it up against it. And what I did is I took multiple areas and found that. So I think that's what's going to happen here. I'm having a problem where right here, you see this lump here, when the bumper slides on, this side's okay. Now there's a little scrape there. The bumper just barely touches it, but on the other side there's an actual dimple. So it's almost like the car grew wider. Which sucks. I gotta be honest, I'm gonna be doing a bit of cutting and pulling that in. Now you can see here how the new quarters come out and then dip in. So there's such a hardcore round area here. And honestly, I think that's okay. I think that would look fine on the car itself. You know, if you just set this up like so. Yeah, it was never right. Anyway, so once we fix these to where they go, you know, we're going to have lots of room, especially on the other side where here it's real high and here as well. But thank God there's enough room where we can, you know, pull that out, fill it in. So this is all going to be, you got to have nice gaps. The other thing with this car, and I think I may have showed this, the gap is decent, gets a little bit tight. So you'd think the trunk would go that way and that would fix it. However, on this side, look at that. Tight but not terrible. And it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. Like this is, just going to put my finger there so you can see what I mean by it's close. So on the other side, it looks like it could go this way. If you look here, there's a big gap. You look over there, there's a real tight gap. So what's actually going to happen, we're going to go over there, loosen that hinge, push that back just a touch till that gap is nice. And then this gap up here should all be relatively the same as over there. And to fix this gap, some guys won't like the idea of that, but anyway, we're going to put something in here. We're going to block it. I'm going to pull this out. Once I pull that out to where I'm happy with it, I'm going to put these buckets and shim them however I want them to be, or maybe manipulate the metal around so that these sit like so where they should. See that? Don't match at all, don't care, because if I got to cut, splice, fill, whatever we got to do there, like I say, there is a round, so we're going to have to just basically, go back 6 inches here, get all the body fill out, because the quarters on this car are welded like this. That's just how it was done, and then they come up top, and then they go across the top. And even here, the quarters don't go in behind the door, they go here, which wouldn't be too bad, but then, whatever they did there, some patchwork, and we're going to get rid of all that and fix that too. So this isn't new to me. This is something where, look, I mean, you could just fix the gaps to be just a little bit better and call it a day. The car is a driver, but at some point down the road, this car will end up in someone else's hands. And let's face it, this is a nice car. It's solid. It should be done right. It's detailed. Everything's been gone over by a guy who really knows his stuff. So mechanically, this is a turnkey, really, really good car. And when I say I want to do it right because I think it deserves it, here, let me grab a crawler. And this is why I want to go the extra mile. Give me just a sec here. I'm going to grab a light. Anyway, a little bit of sand off the tire, but there you are, right? So there's your trunk lid, and you come down and look at all this. This is all clean, and he's jammed a lot of this already, so we don't have to repaint everything. I'm particular, so I will anyway. Oh, look at that. See where that slipped together, and there's a gap. We'll close that off, a little seam sealer. Now, well, here we are. So now you can see where the quarter is welded way back here. So I don't know if he went over top or whatever, but these quarters probably weren't perfect. They never are. So this probably has to, well, there's your bumper. There's literally a divot here. When I took the bolt out of the bumper stayed here. That's how tight that was. So we're gonna basically, I don't know if we have to relieve this, but we're gonna smash this in. It's as simple as that. Up here is going to be manipulated to match this bezel. But this is why the work is worth it and not just doing a cheap job. Look at this. Gas tank's nice, new gas straps, brand new exhaust, and I think it's some kind of aluminized something. Apparently it won't rust. And it goes like that all the way to the front. Right? Those aren't sandblasted and clean frame rails. That is new. Spring perches are new. Trunk floor. Everything basically from behind the back seat back is new. Now, he didn't have the pan out, but when the quarters were off the car, he did all the trunk pan and all this and set it in the car, and he basically had jigs everywhere. And so he didn't do it the way you may have seen super duper pros do it, but he did a pretty good job. You can see the frame rails, how nice they are, and he shot some kind of undercoating on there real thin. He didn't go crazy. So it's there's your axle, your new shocks. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you noticed these springs, brand spanking new. He threw all this in the garbage, or who knows, bought all new stuff. He's a Chrysler guy. He probably put the springs in a van, and he's saving them for something else. But he's really gone to town on this car. So the whole bottom of the car is like this. It's really nice. Because when he got this car and he did all the underside and whatever he did, floor pans, braces, and there is some things that are repaired, but they're almost as nice as all this new stuff you see. There's under here, there's a patch on that wheelhouse, and I don't know if that's something you have to do, or because I'm pretty sure they're new. Well, maybe not. Let's see. Looks like he may have just cut the bottoms off and put pieces in. Yeah, that looks terrible on camera, but again, if you shot that Mopar undercoating under there, that'd go away. But anyway, like I say, the car is running, driving, monster. Everything is solid and good. Mechanically, the thing is great. This is where we took a little bit of rust off the edge of the roof where the primer was thin. We cleaned it, treated it, and I put some etch primer on it. Next time this is blocked off, when I'm ready to sand, I mean, that primer will come right off. We're going to do the epoxy primer over all this, so that's just a spray bomb etch primer for while we're working on it. Same with that little spot there. Wow, look, that cleaned up so nice you could literally paint over it right the way it is. Anyway, that's what I'm working on today. Probably get the hood off later, flip it upside down, clean it off, epoxy prime the bottom, because, you know, at the end of the day, that'll be yellow too. But that's it. Have a good day.